Hey guys, it's Amanda over at AmandaReads, and today I'm coming to you with a much needed video. Now, I know it's been a while since I filmed last, and I've just been having a lot of trouble getting up the willpower to really want to do my makeup and try and look cute and take out all my stuff and film and then put it on my computer and then edit. So today I decided to just film because I felt like it, but not to worry about those other things. So I didn't do my makeup, I didn't do my hair. This is what I look like after a day of work, and it's going to be fine. So this wrap up is going to consist of the books I read from March until May. So the first book I read in the month of March is Junie B. Jones is a Beauty Shop Guide by Barbour Park. And in this book, we follow Junie B as she decides that she wants to be a hairdresser. So she starts practicing her hairdressing techniques, and of course, chaos ensues as usual with Junie B. Jones. This is the 11th book in this series, and I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It was cute, but I do have other favorites. Next, I picked up The Graces by Laura Eve. And I have been wanting to get to this book for a while. I purchased it back in January, and I am just in love with this cover. I think that this book is absolutely beautiful. So in this book, we follow a girl who calls herself River, and she has made it her mission to become friends with the Graces, and they are rumored to be witches. Weird thing happens to the people that become friends with them, but she doesn't care. She desperately wants to be friends with the Graces. This book really entertained me. I've seen some negative reviews where people were bored with it. I really enjoyed this story, and I kept wanting to read it as I was going. I always wanted to pick it up. So I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm really excited for the sequel. So those are all the books I read in the month of March, and we're going to be moving on to the month of April. So the first book I picked up in the month of April was Junie B. Jones Smells Something Fishy by Barbour Park, and this is number 12 in the Junie B. Jones series. I really enjoyed this one because it takes place on Take Your Pet to School Day, and Junie B. Jones doesn't really have a pet that she can bring, so she goes through all these different options, and it's just so silly but so true to what a kindergarten student would probably think at that time. So I really liked it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So I haven't put up any recent unboxings on my channel lately, but I have been currently receiving the Wizarding World Harry Potter subscription boxes, and I received 1 or 2 months of the Page Habit subscription box. So the next book that I picked up in the month of April was actually a book from their Page Habit subscription box, and that was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. In this book, we follow a teenager named Ciamara, and she writes poetry, so this whole book is written in verse. Because it is a Page Habit box, there are annotations from the author, but I also tabbed my own favorite parts or just anything that I had a reaction to. Gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I have so many thoughts and opinions on this book, and I do have a whole bunch of notes, but I just haven't made a actual review video for this book. I'm thinking of making a full spoiler discussion because this is just going to be a short overview, and I do have so many thoughts about this book. This is right now my favorite read of 2018, which is a pretty big statement. I just adored this box. It was my first experience with Page Habit, and it was such a good experience. And I just feel like this point of view is so important. It's so important. There is so much diversity in this book, and the main character just faces adversity, and also I just love the honest way that this main character wrote. I mean, she really wrote down everything she felt about growing up as a girl in the Hispanic community, things that she was and wasn't allowed to do, and it was just really awesome, and it was a look into a culture that I didn't know much about, so I just felt like it was a really important novel, and I loved it so much. Really loved it. Now, I've been trying to cut down on my TBR shelves because I have so many books on my TBR list, and I need to get it to under 100 books to actually feel good about myself. So I decided to tackle series, and I talk about that in a couple of my previous videos. So I decided to finally pick up this bind up that I've had sitting on my shelf, and it's a trilogy. It's called the Trill Trilogy. It's by Amanda Hocking, and the first book in this trilogy is called Switched, and I read that in the month of April. This series focuses on our main character, Wendy Everly, who's a teenager, and she's some strange stuff starts happening to her, and this person, this boy, mysterious boy, starts kind of being everywhere she is, and she kind of feels like he's following her, but he goes to her school, so she just doesn't know she's being paranoid. And then one day, some action-packed stuff happens, and she finds out that she actually belongs to an entirely different community that she never even knew existed. Now, when Wendy was a younger child, like around the age of 6, her mother actually tried to kill her. She cut her open with a knife and was trying to end her life because she was obsessed with the idea that Wendy was not her actual daughter and that Wendy had done something to her child. I really, really liked this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was very fast paced. It went by really quick. It wasn't too long. And I just immediately jumped into the next book in the trilogy because I loved it so much. Then the final book I read in the month of April was the second book in the Trill Trilogy, and that is called Torn by Amanda Hocking. Now, I didn't love the second installment as much as the first, but I did still give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. There was a love triangle introduced in book 2, and it was trash, like super trash, but at the same time it was such a guilty pleasure and I was kind of here for it, but it was trash. It really was. And it was so rushed and kind of like this weird, unnecessary love triangle. So it was really rushed. It was like insta love triangle. Wasn't the best, but I still needed to read the last one to see how it all ended. And then finally, the first book I finished in the month of May was the final book in the Trill Trilogy called Ascend. And I ended up giving this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. I couldn't give it a full 5 stars because I needed it to be longer. I really enjoyed what happened in the third book. I felt like finally we were getting like really to be somewhere and the plot was getting thick, and then it was just over. Like immediately abrupt, rash ending. I mean, everything came together and you were satisfied and stuff like that, but it was just so quick, and it was like, wait, we need 100 more pages. Like, I need more from this. I need to know what's going on. So although there were some unexpected plot twists in the final book, there were a lot of expected plot twists. Like, the author thought they were going to be plot twists, but they were pretty obvious that they were coming. So it just wasn't great. But overall, I would probably reread this, and I would recommend it if you want like a guilty pleasure read. Like, I would say if you liked like the Luck series, you might like this. This isn't as good as that, but like if you are feeling like you just want something easy to read, this was definitely really easy to read. And then finally, the last book I read in May, which I actually just finished last night, was Elsewhere by Gabrielle Zevin, and I buddy read this with Fiona over at Reads and Eats. We are going to have a live show soon, so I'm not sure when that will be, but I will keep you updated. And this was an old favorite of mine. I discovered this book in high school, and I really just connected to the story and just thought it was so intriguing, and so I haven't really read it in a while, and it was really interesting to read it this time around. I don't think I've ever tabbed this much in this book ever. And I have a lot to talk about with Fiona, so we'll be doing that during our live show. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, but I'm keeping my rating on Goodreads my 5 out of 5 stars because I felt like the only reason I gave it a 4 this time is because I'm now not a teenager, so I don't really relate. And some of the choices the main character makes, I'm like, why would you do that? That's not smart. But then I think of what I was like at that age, and I would probably do that. So I'm just going to step aside and keep my rating from when I first discovered it because that's the audience this book is meant for. But the premise of the story is a girl named Liz passes away. And in this universe, when you pass away, you go to a place called Elsewhere. And what you do is you age backwards in Elsewhere until you become a baby and you're ready to be born again. So it's a really interesting premise. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really unique. And like I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I acknowledge that there are some things that seem juvenile and just ridiculous to me now in my life, but I also can acknowledge that it made sense to me as a teenager. So again, catch us on our live show. We'll go really in depth. I'm going to talk about all these tabs that I've made. A lot of interesting theories. So yeah. So those are the 8 things that I read in the months of March until May, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with a new one. Bye guys!